As a promotion to our DILR course, the link of which is in the description below, we are sharing a few sets. We are right now at starter sets. So these sets are sets which are not very complex. They don't have a lot of unstructured data. The scale is not very large. Hence, they do not, stump you. They do not demotivate you. But at the same time, they're not easy. Okay, so today we are getting something from games and tournaments, your typical setup of 3 teams where each team plays every other team once. So now this kind of game and tournament setup usually is as a student. So it's a good idea to get familiar with these types over here. Read through it. Yeah, the scores are given, what is meant by a score. It's a hockey tournament, the 6 scores. Now there is some longish clue here, which is going to challenge your comprehension skills. So another common theme for those who can't get sets is that I don't understand the clue. You'll have to take right appropriate pauses and so on. So we are talking of a difference. Difference means the subtraction. What difference between Avengers' higher score and Barracuda's higher score? Take a pause. So we have 2 numbers. The difference between them. Now the verb comes in, was, one more than you are comparing with. Okay, so this is a new break, pause, one more than what? Than another difference. We again come to a difference. This time the difference is between what? Between Barracuda's lower score and Crusaders' lower score. So 2 numbers here, the difference between them is related to another 2 numbers, the lower scores, the difference between them, and this difference is one more than this difference. Now this is a challenging one. Therefore I said, though these sets might be starter sets, but they're not an easy cakewalk. The only thing is there's not lots of clues here, right? And since it's just 3 teams, and this makes it very easy. One team had the distinction of losing more matches than each of the other 2 teams. This gives the start very easy if you are familiar with when 3 team plays every other team. And if you're not, then I'm giving you a hint. Try writing the possibilities of who wins, who doesn't win. I'll give you one more clue. The 6 scores. Scores are the goals scored by each team in a match. One match, 2 teams. One team scores some goal, another team scores some goal. So that is 2 scores. So this also suggests there are no ties. So again, if you're worried about that, some easy giveaways I'm giving it to you. So there are no ties and one team has lost more matches. This is your ideal starting point. Enough clues. Ideally, you should try it. The more I unravel it for you, the less your learning will be. And do not watch the explanation, students, unless you spend half an hour minimum on it. I would personally like, if you don't get it in half an hour, tomorrow again try for another 15-20 minutes. Only after that watch the explanation ahead. Okay, so let's go ahead. Some very nice learnings here. So the 3 teams ABC play every other team once. So first, very basic, every other team once. So very basic. Since the scale is less, you could even do it like this. A will play against B. A will also play against C. Okay, B has already played against A. There's only one. So B will play against C. So as I said, the scale is less. You can just list down and see, oh, there are 3 matches. That's it. Okay. And in a match, whichever team has the higher score is the winner of that. The number of goals scored by a team is called its score. Okay, so there will be a score like a typical match. So let's say the match has happened and the end goal score is 4-2. So one team has scored 4, another team has scored 2. So they are their scores. So each match will result into 2 scores for the 2 teams. Okay, and hence whoever has the highest is the winner, and these are the 6 scores. So as given in the hint, there are no ties over here. Okay, I've already discussed about this at the start, so it's not a very great starting point. This is one of the easier starting point. So let me come to one learning from this is, when there are 3 teams playing against each other, the only outcome, so I'll just put them as team 1, team 2, team 3, and we are talking about, is this on the screen? Yes, the 1 loss draw. Anyways, we don't have a situation or draw here, but it's good to just generalize. So It could be that each one wins one match, loses another match. So team 1 wins one match, loses one match. There are only two. Team 2 will win one match, lose one match. Team 3 will win one match, lose one match. Or the only other way is a team wins both its matches. Okay, one loss, draw. And if a team has won both its matches, let's say A randomly, then B and C both have lost 1-1 for sure. And then between B and C a match is left. Now there's no tie, one of them has to win. So whoever wins will win one match and has lost 1 to A. And the other one has lost both its matches and lost both 1-0. These are the only two possibilities. And while I'm explaining it here, this comes immediately on reading this, if one is familiar with these outcomes. So this is the case in our situation and not this. So one team has won both the matches, one team has won one match, lost another, and a third team has lost both the matches. So losing more matches. So one of the teams. So this one we are talking about the third team. Okay, now the third team, surprisingly, this third team that we are talking about, which lost the greatest number of matches, had a higher total of the team's 2 scores compared to the total scores of each of the other 2 teams. So this team, while it lost both its matches, if I sum its 2 scores, the sum is more than what the other peoples have sum, other teams sum. Very interesting. Therefore, I said these are very nice sets chosen, students, right? To make you excited with puzzles, to make it seem doable, but again not just given on a platter kind of a thing. So here comes a very nice reasoning process. Again, it's not about whether you got it or not. Okay, think about this reasoning here. Now listen. So we are talking of sum of scores. So if I talk about the sum of all scores, pay attention carefully, then the sum of all score is nothing but 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6. Okay, 6 into 7 by 2, that is 21. So if I divide this divided equally amongst all teams, then each one will have a 7, 7 and 7. But we want one team should have a higher total, so that this team, whichever team that we are talking about, okay, this team's sum should be higher than the others. So what we get from our reasoning is this team sum has to be 8 or more than 8. It cannot be 7. If this team sum is 7, then the other 2 will be 14. And if the other 2 is 14, either they'll be tied at 7, 7, or one of them will be more than 7. If any one becomes 6, the other will become 8. If one becomes 5, it will become 9. Because the sum has to be 14. And if there's an 8 or a 9, then this team will not be having the highest. We started with this team being 7. So run this reasoning. It's very interesting reasoning. So we are talking about this team, okay, who had a higher total. Its sum should be 8 or more. I'm taking a pause so that you spend time here thinking and repeat the reasoning. If I repeat it, it's only going to balloon the length of this video. Okay. Now, also further, pay attention. Look at the chain of thoughts. It's such, I really, even now, after solving hundreds of puzzles, I find this very interesting. Okay. And since it lost its matches. Okay. Since it lost its matches, it cannot score a goal of 6. Because had it scored 6, there's no way that it could lose that match. The other scores are all less than it. So it cannot be 6. Oh, it cannot be 6. Okay. But then, okay, without a 6, and I want a sum of 8 or more, okay, implies that I will necessarily have to get a necessarily. These are important reasoning terms. Necessarily score a 5. Why? What if I remove off a 5 also? Let's say I did not score a 5. Then tell me, could you possibly make a sum of 2 scores at 8? You don't have 2 4s. You don't have 2 4 students. Yeah, then if you are not using a 5, not using a 6, this team, then the maximum sum that it can have is just 7, which is not possible. Is that okay? So it has to have a 5. And since it has to have a 5 and it has lost its match, therefore the score in this match has to be a 5 and a 6. Because it has to lose. Having scored 5 goals in a match, it still has to lose. So a 5 and a 6 have gone. I hope you appreciate it. Now, and interestingly, you know what? Now we just have to repeat. This is another very nice reasoning building block. You have taken care of 5 and 6. Now think of it like a new question. We have done this kind of a reasoning even in a previous example I had shared, you know, 5 objects behind which a prize is there. In the first reasoning, we eliminated 2 objects. Now 3 were left. I said start all over again now. Similarly, start all over again. Same thing now. What are the leftover scores? Left scores. The left scores are 1, 2, 3 and 4. And we know that this team lost. Another match we are talking all about this team, it lost. And since it lost, therefore it cannot use a 4. It cannot use a 4 because if you use it a 4, then another score will be less than 4 and it will win. You can't use a 5 and a 6, that is over. Okay, it cannot use a 4, and if it cannot use a 4 and I want a sum of 8 or more, one of them is 5, so it means that it necessarily scores a 3. You can't use a 4. You have already scored a 5, but you want a sum of 8 or more. Now 9 is not possible. Okay, 5 and 3 will make it 8. Had it been 2, you will not get an 8 also. So it necessarily has to score a 3. And it scores a 3 and has lost. So continue the thought. So what is the score in this match? It has a 3, but it has lost. The only way it could lose is to 4. And since now 3 and 4 are also over, the last match which we are talking about has to have a score which is not this team now. Okay, our team has scored 5 and 3, the one who this clue is all about. The last match will have a score of 1 and 2. So very great reasoning process to come to the scores in the 3 matches. Hope you appreciate it. It's not done. So I'm continuing now. I'll be making space, erasing this. You want to, so watch out students, there's quite some tasks still left. Okay, so now we have got these scores, but we don't know which team is what. So we have done this whole thing. Now this big point remains. We do not know, but let's capture this. Now I don't know which team is which, but I definitely know the score in one of the matches 5 and a 6. In another match is, what was it? 3 and a 4, 3 and lost with a 4. And another match is, let's say 1 and a 2. Right? Now, so let's just name the teams. I don't know which team they are. So let me just give them X, Y, Z instead of A, B, C. So this X team, the team is lost. It has lost. So the sum of X is 8. Okay, now this is another team Y. Okay, this X will play Y, X will play Z. Right, now which is X and which is Z, Y, Z, but I don't know which is Y, which is Z. So this is your third point now, right? This is an easy point now. Which is Y, which is Z? Think about it. The sum here is 8 and 8 is the maximum sum. So the other sum cannot be more than 8. Higher total. So 6 cannot be clubbed with a 2, or else the sum of Y would also have been 8. Therefore this has to be Y, and if this is Y, this has to be Z. So check, Y has a sum of 6 and 1, 7, which is less. Z has a sum of 4 and 2, 6. 6, 7, 8. Sum is 21. Good, simple. So I've got X, Y, Z. You cannot solve any puzzle unless and until you don't take care of all the clues. Unless there's a redundancy of clues, which is a rare case. So we have to tackle this. Now this is tough, students. Again, while if you're good at reasoning, you can solve it without what I'm going to do. But this message is for those who are not good at reasoning. Let's talk about the lower and the higher scores. No, it is talking about the lower, higher score. I don't know who or which. So let's talk about lower scores, higher scores. And let's see. So if I take team X, which I'm more comfortable with because I've done all analysis, the lower score is 3, the higher score is 5. If I take team Y, the higher score is 6, the lower score is 1. And if I take team Z, the lower score is 2 and the higher score is 4. So now we are talking about the difference between the higher scores. So this difference between the higher scores of two teams, so of these two is 1, okay, of these two is 2, 6 and 4 is 2, and of first and this is 1. The difference between the higher scores, either these two or first and third, okay, this difference is 1 more than the difference here. So let's take the difference here. The difference between these two is 2. The difference between this is 1. And the difference between first and last is 1. Now, if this difference is 1 more, whatever is the difference here when you go, you need to add a 1 to it. So if I add a 1 to it, you know, I will never get these 1 as the differences. Because if the difference here was 1, the difference here should have been 0. Which is not possible. So here the difference is 2 and here the difference is 1. Now I don't know which one. This is also interesting, but do I know the difference is 2? Oh, so this difference is talking of the higher scores is 2. So we are talking of Avenger and Barracuda. Now where is the difference 2? Was it this? No. Was it first and last? No, it was these two has a difference of 2. Oh, so these two are talking about Avenger and Barracuda. And if these two are talking about Avenger and Barracuda, then this team has to be the third Crusaders. This team has to be Crusaders. These are Avenger or Barracuda. The difference is 2. Oh, so now Crusaders' lower score is what? 3. And here the difference has to be 1. But the difference between 3 and 1 is not 1. The difference between 3 and 2 is 1. Oh, so that one is Crusader and the other is Barracuda. Oh, so this one is Barracuda. So, right, so I have explained all in terms of, and if this is Barracuda, this is Avengers. So now I can place the XYZ. X is nothing but the Crusaders. So you want to rule it out. This is the Crusaders. Okay, this is the Crusaders. And Y is the Avengers. Avengers. Y is Avengers. And Z is Barracuda. Z is Barracuda. So this is how you can get the scores for all the 3 matches, who played whom and what did they score.